Good evening, host churches. Welcome to this side week. And possibly it's very good for me to say at this time, Merry Christmas to you as well. The Trickle Up title that has been given to this series has probably had some of us scratching our heads, wondering how relevant that was in our lives and where could we make it stick. We're very familiar with the fact that everything in life seems to be dictated by the law of gravity. Objects fall down, airplanes fight hard to combat the law of gravity. Things tip over all around us. Everything goes down, water runs downhill. Wisdom, we think, is the same way. It's this trickle-down effect. Teachers have disciples sitting around their feet. So this past Sunday, I read from Luke chapter 2, the last verses, and I would encourage you to do the same right now. Stop the video, go into the scriptures, read the last verses of Luke chapter 2. Go through that story of where Jesus' parents are panic-stricken, wondering where in the world he is, and they run back to Jerusalem. They've missed him for a day, and now they search for several days to find him. And where do they find him? They find him in the temple court. And who's he talking to? The other kids? Is he playing marbles in the sand? No, he's not doing any of that. He's talking with the teachers. He's engaging with them. He's speaking to them at a level of their own understanding and above their own understanding of Scripture. When the book is closed on that story, we see the teachers of the law looking at one another almost and saying, now, where did this kid get all of this wisdom from? How could it be that this 12-year-old boy is sitting here and he's taking us beyond ourselves in our wisdom and understanding of Scripture and the fulfillment of prophecies? That is trickle up in its purest form. So my question would be the same for yourself as myself. Have you ever been startled by the source of wisdom? I was in my woodworking shop with my 4-year-old grandson one day, and he picked up this very stick, and he walked around the shop naming off the various tools, and then he went through this thing, if this bumps into this, bumps into this, bump to this. Grandpa, that's called a chain reaction. I hadn't really been paying a whole lot of attention up until then, and I thought, what did this 4-year-old boy just say? He's teaching me about a chain reaction. I didn't know 4-year-old boys knew the phrase chain reaction, nor the concept. I was startled. Could I be startled in other areas of my life as well? The light bulb comes on when I realize this happens in my life rather frequently, particularly in the house church setting, which is your setting right now as well, where members of the house church that are younger than me chronologically, maybe not as well versed in scriptures as myself or life lessons, suddenly I find myself learning from their story as they speak truth into my life. And many of these people are 1/3 of my age chronologically. So what would the arrow be this week in your house church? I wonder if it couldn't be something of the same nature where you could set the stage for this to occur in the circle of your house church, where you go around the circle and you speak to one another. Speak to one another wisdom. Speak to one another in words of encouragement. Speak to one another how this person and that person and that person has built into your life. I think if we go around the circle and we share the baton of listening and learning from one another, this house church can become one of those experiences where trickle up occurs 360 around the circle as we bless one another, encourage one another, pray for one another, admit to one another that we have all received from one another. No one here is the master. We are all learners. We are all disciples of Jesus Christ. So go ahead, go around the circle, have a great time of dialogue and encouraging one another. And maybe this is one of those anti-law of gravity times where things trickle up instead of falling down.